Have you ever stared at a task knowing it's important, yet found yourself scrolling your phone, watching videos, or cleaning things you didn't even realize needed cleaning? Maybe it's a report at work, a personal goal, or a simple email, but no matter how much you know you should start, you don't. You procrastinate. And here's the shocking truth. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's a complex brain phenomenon rooted in neuroscience, psychology, and even evolution. Understanding it could completely change how you approach your life and why you keep putting things off. Let's start with a question. Why does your brain make you do everything but the thing you actually need to do? Why do we willingly choose short-term comfort over long-term gain, even when we know better? The answer lies in the conflict between two brain systems: the rational prefrontal cortex, which knows what's best for you, and the emotional limbic system, which seeks instant gratification. Procrastination is literally your brain waging war against itself. Here's a mind-blowing fact. Studies show that the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and decision-making, is directly competing with the limbic system, which drives pleasure, fear, and avoidance. When the limbic system wins which, it often does, your brain prioritizes short-term emotional relief over long-term goals. That's why binge-watching TV feels easier than writing that report, or checking social media seems more appealing than tackling a challenging project. It's not weakness. It's biology. Now imagine this. Your brain perceives future rewards differently than immediate ones. Neuroscientists call this temporal discounting. The reward for finishing a task tomorrow or next week feels less real, less urgent than the reward of scrolling Instagram or having a snack right now. This is why procrastination is not about laziness. It's about how your brain evaluates time, risk, and reward. And here's the kicker. Nearly everyone experiences this, even high achievers. But the strategies they use to overcome it separate the successful from the stuck. Procrastination is also tied to anxiety and fear. Here's something most people don't realize. When you avoid a task, your brain temporarily reduces stress. But that relief is fleeting. Soon, guilt, panic, or self-criticism floods in, creating a vicious cycle. And the more important the task, the more your brain resists. That's why we sometimes put off things that matter the most, projects that could change our lives, but trigger the most fear or self-doubt. Here's a fascinating study. Researchers found that people who procrastinate aren't necessarily lazy or unmotivated. They are often perfectionists. They fear failure, rejection, or criticism so intensely that starting a task feels emotionally unsafe. The limbic system senses danger even where none exists. So, instead of attacking the task head-on, the brain distracts itself, creating productive procrastination or avoidance behaviors. Cleaning your desk, organizing files, or even answering trivial emails, all to delay the real challenge. Now, a psychological twist. Procrastination isn't always bad. In fact, some research shows that structured delay can enhance creativity. When your brain incubates ideas while you're not actively working, connections form subconsciously. That's why some people solve problems in the shower, on a walk, or while cooking, times when the limbic system temporarily relaxes and lets the prefrontal cortex process in the background. But here's the catch. This only works if procrastination is balanced and intentional. Uncontrolled procrastination is debilitating. Here's where the neuroscience gets even more interesting. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, plays a central role. When we start a task, dopamine spikes, giving motivation and focus. But the anticipation of the task can create a dopamine deficit, leaving you unmotivated, anxious, and tempted to avoid the work. That's why the first step of any task is the hardest, and why just getting started is the most powerful strategy known in psychology. Now, think about habits. Your brain automates repeated behaviors. If procrastination has been your default for years, Your brain literally rewires itself to resist tasks automatically. Breaking this cycle requires deliberate practice, small incremental steps, consistent start times, and reward systems that retrain the brain. And here's the insider tip. The smaller the step, the less resistance the limbic system offers. Writing one paragraph, making one call, or cleaning one shelf is often enough to trigger momentum. Here's another fascinating fact. Procrastination is linked to emotional intelligence. People with higher emotional awareness can notice the avoidance impulses, recognize the fear behind them, and consciously redirect behavior. They learn to separate discomfort from danger. Those who struggle may perceive discomfort as a signal to stop rather than a normal part of challenging growth. This is why mindfulness, reflection, and journaling are scientifically proven tools to combat procrastination, the brain's ability to monitor itself. Now, a question. Have you noticed that procrastination often strikes during tasks you care about most? It's no accident. The brain's emotional circuitry treats meaningful tasks as higher stakes, which triggers avoidance. Less important tasks feel safer, easier, and more rewarding in the short term. That's why we clean, scroll, or research endlessly instead of acting on goals. Awareness of this pattern is the first step to mastery. Here's a strategy few people know. Time blocking with intentional rewards can retrain the limbic system. Break work into small intervals and pair each with a mini reward music, snack, or short break. This aligns short-term gratification with long-term goals, tricking the brain into cooperation. Combine this with visualization. Imagine completing the task, feeling relief and pride. Your brain begins to crave completion instead of avoidance. Now, consider motivation hacks. External accountability activates the prefrontal cortex. Tell a friend, post a goal publicly, or join a group challenge. Social pressure creates psychological stakes, reducing the brain's resistance. Similarly, environmental design works. Remove distractions. Organize your workspace and create cues that signal focused time. The brain responds to structure, and structured environments significantly reduce procrastination. Here's a surprising insight. Self-compassion is more effective than self-criticism. Harshly judging yourself for procrastinating triggers the limbic system, increasing stress and avoidance. By approaching tasks with curiosity and kindness, the brain perceives challenges as manageable, reducing emotional friction. This is why high performers often speak of starting imperfectly or embracing small wins as their core principle. And now, the most powerful takeaway. Procrastination is not a moral failing. It's a predictable neurological pattern. The antidote is simple yet profound awareness, small incremental actions, structured environments, rewards, and self-compassion. When applied consistently, your brain literally rewires itself, transforming procrastination from a barrier into a productivity tool. Here's an additional tip few people ever realize. Combining strategic procrastination with deliberate reflection can supercharge results. Pause intentionally before starting. Let your mind incubate ideas, then take immediate action. This creates a balance of insight and execution, training your brain to value both foresight and momentum simultaneously. So next time you feel the urge to delay, remember, your brain isn't sabotaging you, it's signaling discomfort. Respond intelligently. Start small, reward yourself, and observe your thoughts without judgment. Over time, procrastination diminishes, motivation grows, and the tasks that once paralyzed you become opportunities for mastery. And here's the surprise. Few people never know. The secret to conquering procrastination isn't eliminating. Delay's mastering it. Strategic procrastination, combined with awareness and deliberate action, can enhance creativity, focus, and output beyond what straight, unbroken work achieves. The brain thrives not on constant pressure, but on intelligent tension. Balancing avoidance with action. Every moment you hesitate is an opportunity to observe, adjust, and learn. Your mind is capable of rewiring itself, and your tiny procrastinating self can be transformed into a disciplined, creative, unstoppable force. The maze of avoidance exists but now. You hold the key and the final, ultimate insight. The more you practice these strategies, the more your brain rewires itself to crave progress instead of delay. The tiny self that once hid from tasks will start to anticipate challenges, embrace discomfort, and even seek complexity. That's the neuroscience-backed secret few people understand, the very reason why mastering procrastination can transform your productivity, creativity, and life itself.